The second day of testing brought a larger arena and a bigger crowd. Word had spread throughout the station that humans had defeated the Council's champions in individual combat. Aliens who had never seen humans before came to watch what they thought would be humanity's final defeat. General Thaxter looked angry as he addressed the crowd. Yesterday's results were lucky victories. Today, we will see the true strength of the Galactic Council. Group combat will reveal these humans for what they really are, weak beings who cannot stand against our combined might. Jake stood with his team in the preparation area. For group combat, he had chosen 10 of his best crew members. Along with Lisa Carter, Paul Rodriguez, and Helen Foster, he had selected Communications Officer Danny Brooks, Intelligence Officer Corinne Bell, Medical Officer Ryan Hayes, and 4 other crew members who had shown exceptional skill and creativity. Remember, Jake told them, we're not trying to outmuscle them. We're trying to outthink them. They expect us to fight like they do. We're going to fight like humans. Danny Brooks had been studying the alien species for days. He was a quiet man with sharp eyes who noticed things others missed. Captain, I've been watching their behavior patterns. Each species has very predictable tactics. The Garvani always attack straight forward. The Zephyrians rely heavily on their electrical powers. The Krell move in perfect formation, but can't adapt when their formation is broken. Corinne Bell nodded. She was the ship's intelligence officer, trained to find weaknesses in enemy forces. They also have another problem. They've never worked together as mixed groups. Each species fights in its own way, and they don't coordinate well with the others. Jake smiled. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. Thaxter led them into the arena. This time, the fighting space was much larger, with obstacles and barriers scattered throughout. The human team would face 20 alien warriors, 7 Gorvani, 6 Zephyrians, and 7 Krell. The rules are simple, Thaxter announced. Fight until one side can no longer continue. You may use the environment to your advantage. Begin when the signal sounds. Jake's team spread out immediately. They had planned this carefully. Unlike the aliens, who grouped by species, the humans mixed together and moved in small, flexible teams. The signal sounded, and the alien warriors charged. The Gorvani came straight at the humans, expecting to overwhelm them with brute force. The Zephyrians stayed back, preparing to use their electrical attacks. The Krell moved in perfect formation, trying to surround the human positions. Humans were not where the aliens expected them to be. Lisa Carter led a team of 3 humans in a flanking maneuver. While the Gorvani were charging straight ahead, she moved around the side and attacked them from an angle. They had not defended that Paul Rodriguez used the arena's obstacles to his advantage. He had quickly built simple machines from debris in the arena, catapults, levers, and traps that he could use to redirect the aliens' attacks. Helen Foster led the most dangerous part of the plan. She and 2 other humans ran straight at the Krell formation. The aliens thought the humans were making a desperate frontal assault. They were wrong. At the last second, Helen's team scattered in different directions. The Krell formation, which had been perfect for meeting a frontal attack, was suddenly useless. The aliens found themselves facing opponents coming from 3 different directions at once. Danny Brooks and Corinne Bell worked together to create confusion among the enemy. They used noise, misdirection, and psychological tactics to make the aliens uncertain about where the real threats were coming from. The Zephyrians tried to use their electrical attacks, but Paul's machines redirected the electricity harmlessly into the ground. The beautiful crystal beings found their most powerful weapons useless against simple human engineering. The Gorvani warriors were strong and fierce, but they could not catch opponents who refused to fight the way they expected. Lisa's team used hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly and then disappearing before the aliens could respond. The Krell hive mind became confused when their formation was broken. They were used to working as one unit, but the humans had divided them into small groups that could not communicate effectively with each other. For 30 minutes, the battle raged across the arena. The aliens were stronger and had better natural weapons, but the humans were smarter and more adaptable. Every time the aliens tried a new tactic, the humans changed their approach to counter it. Jake directed the battle from the center of the arena, constantly communicating with his team members. Unlike the aliens, who fought as separate groups, the humans worked together as one unit while maintaining the flexibility to adapt to changing conditions. "Lisa, take your team and help Paul with the Zephyrians," Jake called out. "Helen, the Krell are regrouping. Break them up again. Danny, Karen, I need you to cause a distraction on the left side. Ryan, tend to Rodriguez. He took a hit." The human team flowed like water around the alien attacks. When the aliens concentrated their forces in one area, the humans attacked from another direction. When the aliens spread out, the humans concentrated their attack on the weakest point. The crowd watched in amazement as the smaller human force systematically defeated the larger alien army. It was not a battle of strength against strength. It was intelligence against brute force, and intelligence was winning. One by one, the alien warriors fell, not killed, but defeated, overwhelmed by tactics they had never seen before. The Gorvani found themselves trapped by simple mechanical devices. The Zephyrians discovered that their electrical attacks were useless when humans used their own environment against them. The Krell learned that perfect coordination was a weakness when facing opponents who specialized in chaos. Finally, only one alien remained standing, a massive Gorvani warrior who had somehow avoided all the human traps and attacks. He stood in the center of the arena, breathing heavily, surrounded by his defeated comrades. Jake approached him alone. "You fought well." The Gorvani snarled. "You fight without honor. You use tricks and deception." "We fight to win," Jake replied, "and we fight to survive. On our world, there is no honor in losing." The Gorvani charged one last time. Jake waited until the last moment, then stepped aside and used the alien's own momentum to send him crashing into a barrier. The warrior did not get up again. The arena was silent. 20 alien warriors had been defeated by 10 humans. The crowd could not believe what they had seen. Thaxter stepped into the arena, his yellow eyes blazing with anger. "This is impossible. Your species is weak. You should not be able to defeat our warriors." Jake wiped sweat from his forehead. "You keep saying we're weak, but we keep winning. Maybe you need to think about what strength really means." Amy Parker joined Jake in the arena. "General, your species are all very strong in their own ways, but you've become so specialized that you can't adapt. You fight the same way every time." "Humans are different," Helen Foster added. "We don't have one way of fighting. We have thousands of ways. We change our tactics based on what we're facing." Paul Rodriguez, despite his injury, managed to stand up. "You see weakness where we see adaptability. You see chaos where we see opportunity." Thaxter looked around at his defeated warriors. "The third test will be different. Strategic warfare. Your entire species against our entire fleet. Numbers will matter more than your tricks." Jake smiled. "We're looking forward to it." As the humans left the arena, Jake could hear the crowd talking excitedly. Some aliens were beginning to question whether the Council's way of ranking species by brute strength made sense. Others were angry that their champions had been defeated by weak humans. Back in their quarters, Jake's team was tired but excited. They had won again, but they knew the final test would be the most difficult. "Captain," Karen Bell said, "the strategic warfare test won't be about individual combat or small group tactics. It will be about commanding entire fleets and armies. Jake nodded. I know, but we have advantages they don't understand. Human commanders have been fighting strategic wars for thousands of years. We've learned things about warfare that they've never had to learn. Danny Brooks was already working on plans for the final test. Sir, they're going to throw everything they have at us. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior. Good, Jake replied. Let them. They're thinking like aliens. They believe that overwhelming force is the answer to every problem. Lisa Carter cleaned her weapons as she spoke. What's our answer, Captain? Jake looked out the window at the alien fleet surrounding the station. Hundreds of ships, thousands of warriors, all waiting to destroy humanity if the humans failed the final test. Our answer is the same as it's always been, Jake said. We adapt. We learn. We find a way to win that they never saw coming. Ryan Hayes finished treating Paul's injury. They're going to study everything we did today. They'll try to prepare for our tactics. Let them study, Jake said. They think they understand us now. They think they've seen what humans can do. They have no idea what humans can really do when we stop holding back. The final test would determine the fate of the human race. Jake knew that this time, the aliens would not underestimate them. They would bring their full power to bear against humanity. But Jake also knew something the aliens did not understand. Humans had been fighting impossible odds for their entire existence. They had survived ice ages, plague. The Council's massive flagship was larger than any human city. Jake Morrison walked through its corridors surrounded by alien guards, his footsteps echoing in the vast metal halls. The ship held representatives from all 12 species of the Galactic Council, and they had all come to see the humans who had defeated their champions. General Thaxter led Jake and his senior staff to the council chamber. The room was enormous, with seats arranged in a circle around a central platform. Each section held a different alien species, and Jake could feel their eyes watching him as he entered. The final test will be explained by the council leaders, Thaxter said. His voice was tight with anger. Jake could tell the Gorvani general was still upset about his warriors' defeats. The council leader was a being Jake had never seen before. It was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shimmer like metal. Its voice was cold and mechanical when it spoke. I am Prime Coordinator Vex of the Metallic Collective, it said. We have watched your species defeat our champions in individual and group combat. This should have been impossible. Jake stood straight and looked directly at the alien leader. We did what we had to do. Yes, Vex replied. And that is why you are here. The Council has decided that your species represents a threat to the established order. You fight in ways we do not understand. You adapt in ways we cannot predict. Amy. Parker stepped forward. We don't want to be a threat. We want to be allies. A new voice spoke from the Zephyrian section. The crystal being's voice chimed like bells. Alliance requires understanding. We do not understand you. Your species makes no sense to us. Explain, Vex commanded. Amy looked at Jake, who nodded. She had been preparing for this moment. Our species evolved differently than yours. Every species in the Council became dominant on their home world through one special ability: strength, electricity, hive minds, or other gifts. And humans? Asked a Krell representative. Humans became dominant through intelligence and adaptability. We had no special abilities, so we had to learn to use everything around us. We became the ultimate generalists. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Aliens spoke in dozens of different languages, creating a cacophony of sound. Jake could tell they were arguing about what Amy had said. Vex called for silence. You claim your species is adaptable, but adaptation has limits. The final test will prove this. A massive holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the space around Kepler Station, with hundreds of alien ships arranged in battle formation. "Strategic warfare," Vex announced. "Your single ship against our entire fleet. 500 vessels from all Council species. Every type of weapon and defense system in the galaxy." Jake studied the display. The alien fleet was massive and well organized. Each species had contributed their best ships and most experienced commanders. It was designed to be an overwhelming force that no single vessel could possibly defeat. "The rules are simple," Vex continued. "Survive for 1 hour, and your species will be granted membership in the Council. Fail, and your species will be eliminated." "One ship against 500? Jake asked. "You have claimed that humans are adaptable. Prove it." Jake looked at his crew. They had faced impossible odds before, but this was different. This was not about individual combat or small group tactics. This was about commanding a single vessel against an entire fleet. "We accept," Jake said. The council chamber buzzed with surprise. Many of the aliens had expected the humans to surrender when they saw the odds they faced. "You are either very brave or very foolish," said a Gorvani representative. "Maybe both," Jake replied with a smile. 3 hours later, Jake stood on the bridge of the Voyager as it moved away from Kepler Station. The alien fleet surrounded them at a distance, waiting for the test to begin. Jake could see weapon systems charging and ships moving into attack positions. "Captain," Amy said from her station, "I've been analyzing the alien fleet composition. They have every type of weapon system imaginable. Energy weapons, projectile weapons, plasma cannons, and things I can't even identify. What about their coordination?" Jake asked. Danny Brooks answered from the communications station. "That's interesting, sir. They're using 12 different command languages and communication protocols. Each species is commanding their own ships in their own way. That's their weakness," Jake said. "They're not really one fleet. They're 12 different fleets trying to work together." Ben Walsh had been studying the tactical display. "Captain, they're arranged in a classic overwhelming force formation. They plan to surround us and attack from all directions simultaneously." Jake nodded. Standard alien thinking. Apply maximum force to guarantee victory. Karen Bell looked up from her intelligence station. "Sir, they're treating this like a normal space battle. They expect us to fight like a normal spaceship." "Are we going to fight like a normal spaceship?" Paul Rodriguez asked. Jake smiled. "Paul, when have humans ever done anything the normal way?" The test began with a signal from the Council flagship. Immediately, the alien fleet began to move. 500 ships started closing in on the Voyager from all directions. Their plan was simple: surround the human ship and destroy it with overwhelming firepower. But the Voyager was not where they expected it to be. Jake had ordered the ship to move at maximum speed toward the weakest part of the alien formation. Instead of trying to fight the entire fleet at once, he was going to fight small groups of ships, one at a time. "Lisa, target their communication relays," Jake ordered. "If we can disrupt their coordination, they'll start making mistakes." "Paul, I need you to overload our engines. Give me every bit of speed this ship can produce. Helen, analyze their flight patterns. I want to know exactly how each species flies their ships." The Voyager shot through the alien formation like a bullet. The aliens had been expecting the humans to stay in one place and fight defensively. Instead, the human ship was moving too, fast for most of their weapons to track. "Danny, start broadcasting on all their communication frequencies. I want to confuse their coordination." Danny's fingers flew over his controls. He began sending false orders and contradictory information on the alien communication channels. The different species started receiving conflicting instructions. Gorvani ships, true to their nature, immediately charged at the Voyager. But Jake had expected this. He led them into a group of Zephyrian vessels that were charging their electrical weapons. Now, Jake called out. The Voyager suddenly changed direction, diving below the alien ships. The Gorvani vessels, moving too, fast to stop, crashed directly into the Zephyrian formation. The crystal beings' electrical weapons discharged into their own allies. "That's 20 ships out of the fight," Ben reported with satisfaction. But the alien fleet was learning. The remaining ships began to coordinate better, sharing information and adjusting their tactics. Jake knew the easy victories were over. "Captain," Amy called out, "they're adapting to our speed advantage. They're setting up overlapping fields of fire." Jake studied the tactical display. The aliens were creating zones where their weapons coverage overlapped. No matter how fast the Voyager moved, it would have to pass through areas where multiple ships could target it. "They're thinking like aliens," Jake said. "They're trying to create a perfect tactical solution. What's our response?" Lisa asked. "We're going to think like humans," Jake replied. "Karen, what's the one thing all these alien species have in common?" Karen thought for a moment. "They all follow predictable patterns. They all do what their nature tells them to do." "Exactly. Danny, I need you to broadcast a message to all ships. Tell them that the human vessel is carrying a weapon that will destroy Kepler Station if we're attacked." "Sir," Danny said, "that's not true." "I know, but they don't know that. And each species will react to that threat in their own predictable way." Danny sent the message. The effect was immediate. The alien fleet began to argue among themselves. The Gorvani wanted to attack anyway, believing their honor was more important than the station. The Zephyrians wanted to withdraw to a safe distance. The Krell wanted to analyze the threat before acting. While the aliens debated, Jake put the next part of his plan into action. "Paul, how long would it take you to create a fake energy signature that looks like a massive weapon charging?" Paul's eyes lit up. "Give me 5 minutes, Captain." "Helen, I need you to study the psychological profiles Amy created. How would each species react if they thought their own people were in danger?" Helen worked quickly at her station. The Gorvani would sacrifice themselves for honor. The Zephyrians would try to find a technical solution. The Krell would protect the hive above all else. "Perfect. Karen, identify which ships have the most important commanders on board." For the next 20 minutes, Jake used human psychology and alien predictability against the fleet. He made the aliens believe that their own commanders were in danger from each other. He used their own nature as weapons against them. The Gorvani ships attacked the Zephyrian vessels, believing the crystal beings were preparing to betray the alliance. The Zephyrians retaliated with electrical attacks. The Krell tried to maintain order, but only created more confusion. Soon, the alien fleet was fighting itself more than it was fighting the Voyager. 30 minutes remaining, Ben announced. But Jake knew the aliens would not stay confused forever. Their commanders were 6 months had passed since the tests at Kepler Station. The galaxy was a different place now, and Jake Morrison could see the changes from his office window on Earth. Alien ships moved peacefully through Earth's solar system, no longer as conquerors, but as partners. The Council had made their decision after 3 days of heated debate. They had not just accepted humanity into the Galactic Council. They had made humans the leaders of a new organization called the Integrated Galactic Alliance. Jake was now Admiral Morrison, but he still preferred to be called Captain. He sat at his desk reading reports from around the galaxy. The changes were happening faster than anyone had expected. Amy Parker knocked on his door. She was now Earth's chief ambassador to alien species, but she still worked closely with Jake on important matters. "The latest reports from the Gorvani homeworld," she said, handing him a datapad. Ambassador Carter says the progress is remarkable. Jake. Read the report with interest. Lisa Carter had been promoted to ambassador after her victory in the arena. She was now working with young Gorvani warriors, teaching them human combat techniques and strategic thinking. The young Gorvani are learning quickly, Jake read aloud. They're beginning to understand that true strength comes from adaptability, not just physical power. Some of the older warriors are resistant to change, but the younger generation is eager to learn new ways of fighting. Amy sat down across from Jake's desk. It's the same story everywhere. The younger aliens are fascinated by human thinking. They want to learn our methods. Jake put down the data pad and looked at Amy. What about the older generation? Are they accepting the changes? Slowly, Amy replied. General Thaxer visited last week. He's still not happy about losing to humans, but he admits that our methods are effective. He's even asked for human advisors to help train his troops. A communication alert sounded on Jake's desk. The holographic display showed Paul Rodriguez calling from the Zephyrian homeworld. Paul, Jake said as the engineer's image appeared. How are the joint research projects going? Paul smiled. He looked tired but excited. Captain, you won't believe what we're accomplishing here. The Zephyrian's ability to manipulate electromagnetic fields, combined with human mechanical engineering, is producing incredible results. Give me an example. We just finished building a new type of spacecraft. Engine. It uses Zephyrian electromagnetic control with human adaptive design principles. The result is an engine that can adjust its performance based on changing conditions. It's more efficient than anything either species could build alone. Amy leaned forward. That's exactly what we hoped would happen. Human adaptability combined with alien specialization. There's more, Paul continued. The Zephyrians are starting to think differently about problem solving. Instead of looking for the perfect technical solution, they're learning to create flexible solutions that can. Change is needed. After Paul's call ended, Jake received another communication. This one was from Helen Foster, who was working with the Krell on their homeworld. Captain, Helen said when her image appeared, the work here is challenging but rewarding. The Krell. Hive mind is incredibly powerful, but it was also limiting them. How so? Jake asked. They were so focused on perfect coordination that they couldn't handle unexpected situations. We're teaching them to maintain their hive advantages while adding human individual creativity. Is it working? Helen nodded enthusiastically. We've created hybrid teams that combine Krell coordination with human unpredictability. The results are amazing. They can work together perfectly when they need to, but they can also break apart and adapt when situations change. Jake was pleased with the reports, but he knew the real test would come later. The galaxy was changing, but change was never easy. His thoughts were interrupted by another visitor. Ben Walsh entered the office, followed by Danny Brooks and Karen Bell. They were all part of Jake's new command staff for the Integrated Galactic Alliance. Admiral, Ben said, we have news from the Outer Rim territories. Jake gestured for them to sit down. What kind of news? Karen spoke first. There's a new threat. A species called the Dominators has been attacking settlements on the galaxy's edge. They're not part of the Council, and they're more aggressive than anything we've seen before. The Council species are asking for help, Danny added. They want to know if humans can develop strategies to deal with this new enemy. Jake was not surprised. The galaxy had lived in relative peace for so long that most species had forgotten how to deal with truly aggressive enemies. What do we know about these Dominators? Jake asked. Ben consulted his datapad. They're larger than Gorvani, stronger than any known species, and they seem to have natural weapons that can cut through most armor. They also appear to be highly intelligent and well organized. Sounds familiar, Amy said with a slight smile. Another species that thinks strength and aggression are all that matter. Jake stood up and walked to the window. He could see alien ships in Earth's orbit, but now they looked friendly rather than threatening. He had an idea. "I think it's time for the galaxy to see what humans can really do when we're not holding back," he said. "What do you mean?" Karen asked. Jake turned back to his team. "During the tests at Kepler Station, we were trying to prove ourselves to the Council. We were being careful, diplomatic. We were showing them just enough to win without frightening them too much. And now?" Ben asked. "Now we have a real enemy. The Dominators are attacking innocent people. This isn't about proving anything. This is about protecting the galaxy." Amy understood immediately. "You want to show the aliens what humans are like when we're actually fighting to defend our allies." "Exactly," Jake said. "The Council species have seen human cleverness and adaptability. They haven't seen human determination when people we care about are in danger." Over the next few weeks, Jake assembled a joint fleet to deal with the Dominator threat. But this fleet was different from anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of ships grouped by species, Jake created mixed crews with humans working alongside aliens. Each ship had human commanders working with alien specialists. Gorvani warriors learned human tactics. Zephyrian engineers worked with human adaptability experts. Krell coordinators learned to incorporate human unpredictability into their planning. The fleet's first encounter with the Dominators came at a small colony world on the galaxy's edge. The Dominators had surrounded the planet with 50 massive warships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in the Council fleet. The Dominator commander sent a simple message: surrender or be destroyed. Jake's response was equally simple: no. The battle that followed showed the galaxy what humanity really meant by adaptive warfare. The joint fleet did not try to match the Dominator's strength. Instead, they used tactics that no purely alien fleet could have conceived. Human commanders coordinated with Krell hive minds to create formations that could split and reform instantly. Gorvani warriors, trained in human tactics, used the Dominator's aggression against them. Zephyrian ships, guided by human engineering principles, created electromagnetic traps that the enemy could not escape. The battle lasted only 2 hours. When it was over, the Dominator fleet was either destroyed or fleeing. The colony was safe, and the galaxy had seen a new kind of warfare. News of the victory spread quickly throughout the galaxy. For the first time, species that had been separate for millennia were working together as true partners. The humans had not just taught them new tactics. They had taught them how to be more than they were individually. Jake stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the reports coming in from around the galaxy. More colonies were being liberated. More Dominator fleets were being defeated. But more importantly, the different species of the galaxy were learning to work together in ways they never had before. Amy joined him on the bridge. "The Council is asking you to speak at the next assembly. They want you to explain how this new cooperation is possible." Jake smiled. "What should I tell them?" "Tell them the truth," Amy replied. "Tell them that humans didn't just bring new tactics to the galaxy. We brought a new way of thinking about what's possible." "And what's that?" "That strength isn't about being the biggest or the toughest. It's about being able to grow, to change, to become more than you were before." Jake nodded. That was exactly what he would tell them. The galaxy had thought aliens were tough. They had believed that the strongest species should rule and the weakest should serve. They had created a hierarchy based on fixed abilities and unchanging nature. Then humans had arrived and proven otherwise. They had shown that true strength came from the ability to adapt, to learn, to work together, and to never accept that any problem was impossible to solve. The Dominators continued to attack, but they were facing something they had never encountered: Before, a galaxy that was learning to fight like humans. Every defeat made the Allied forces stronger and more creative. Every challenge was met with new solutions. Jake looked out at the stars and knew that humanity had given the galaxy something precious, the knowledge that there were no limits to what intelligent beings could accomplish when they worked together and refused to give up. They had thought aliens were tough, but humans had proved that being tough was not enough. In a universe full of challenges, the species that survived and thrived. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Freedom's Edge, watching the stars drift past the main window. The ship was old but reliable, just like most human vessels. She had been built for long patrols and cargo runs, not for war. Her hull was thick steel and carbon fiber, designed to take hits and keep flying. The crew of 42 humans had been traveling for 3 weeks. They were coming back from a failed peace talk with the Corvan Republic. The talks had gone nowhere, and now they were heading home with nothing to show for their time. Jake felt tired. At 38, he had been commanding ships for 12 years, and sometimes he wondered if all the diplomacy was worth it. "Captain," said Communications Officer Lisa Park from her station, "I'm getting a distress signal." Jake walked over to her console. Lisa was 26, smart, and never missed anything important. She had been with his crew for 2 years, and he trusted her completely. "What kind of signal?" he asked. "It's from the Valdori system. They're asking for immediate help from any nearby ships." Lisa's face looked worried. "Sir, they say their planet is under attack." Jake knew about the Valdori. They were gentle people who looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin and large eyes. They had never fought a war in their entire history. They grew food, made art, and lived in peace. The idea of them being attacked made Jake's stomach turn. "Who's attacking them?" he asked. "The Zephyrians," Lisa replied. A full battle fleet. Jake felt his heart sink. The Zephyrians were bad news. They had been conquering star systems across the outer rim for 3 years. Their ships were made of some kind of living crystal that could heal itself. Their weapons shot pure energy that could cut through almost anything. They were ruthless and efficient. "How far are we from the Valdori system?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Foster looked up from the navigation station. She was 31, had short red hair, and could pilot anything that flew. "About 6 hours at maximum speed, sir." Jake thought about this. 6 hours meant they would arrive in the middle of the battle, maybe even after it was over. The Valdori had no real defenses. Their few ships were designed for exploration, not fighting. "Lisa, what does the Galactic Council say about this?" "They issued a statement 3 hours ago. They're calling it a regional conflict and advising all species to stay out of it." Jake wasn't surprised. The Galactic Council was good at making speeches, but terrible at actually helping anyone. They would debate and argue while entire worlds burned. What about other ships? Anyone else responding? Lisa shook her head. "Nothing so far, sir. Most of the nearby vessels are civilian traders. The few military ships in the area are following council orders and staying away." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him, waiting for orders. He could see the question in their eyes. They all knew what the right thing to do was, but they also knew it would probably get them killed. Chief Engineer Pete Collins spoke up from his station. Pete was 45, had been fixing engines since he was 15, and never said much unless it was important. "Captain, we're not a warship. We've got basic defensive weapons, and maybe enough firepower to fight off pirates. The Zephyrians will turn us into scrap metal." "I know, Pete," Jake said quietly. "Sir," said Lieutenant Ben Harper from the tactical station. Ben was 29, had studied every known form of space combat, and was probably the best weapons officer in the fleet. "Even if we wanted to help, there's not much we can do. One ship against a full Zephyrian battle fleet? It's suicide. Jake nodded. Everything his crew was saying was true. The Freedom's Edge was tough, but she wasn't built for this kind of fight. Her weapons were old kinetic cannons and plasma charges. Her shields were strong, but not strong enough to stop Zephyrian energy beams. Her crew was skilled but small. "Lisa, play the distress signal again," Jake said. The bridge speakers crackled to life. A voice spoke in the gentle, musical language of the Valdori. The universal translator turned it into words Jake could understand. "This is Elder Vexeny of the Valdori Council. Our world is under attack. Our people are dying. We have 4 million civilians in the danger zones, and no way to evacuate them. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. Our children are crying. Our cities are burning. We are not warriors. We do not know how to fight. Please help us." Message ended. The bridge was quiet, except for the hum of the ship's engines. Jake had heard distress calls before. Most were from cargo ships that had lost power or passenger vessels with broken engines. This was different. This was an entire race of people asking for help as they watched their world die. He thought about his own family back on Earth. His wife, Sarah, his 2 kids, Tommy and Emma. He thought about what he would want someone to do if Earth was under attack and his family was in danger. "Amy, how long would it take the Zephyrians to conquer the Valdori homeworld?" "Based on their previous attacks, probably 6 to 8 hours, sir. They don't waste time." Jake looked at the tactical display. The Valdori system was marked in red, indicating active combat. The Zephyrian fleet was shown as 12 heavy cruisers, each one 3 times the size of the Freedom's Edge. "Ben, what are our chances if we engage them?" Ben was quiet for a long moment. "Honestly, sir? Close to 0. We might be able to damage one of their ships before they destroy us. Maybe give the Valdori a few extra minutes to evacuate." "A few minutes might be enough to save some lives," Jake said. Pete shook his head. "Captain, I understand wanting to help, but we have to think about our own crew. 42 people are going to die for nothing." Jake knew Pete was right. It was his job to keep his crew safe. Running into a battle they couldn't win was the opposite of that. But he also knew something else. He knew that if they didn't try to help, he would never be able to look at himself in the mirror again. "Lisa, open a channel to the Valdori." "Channel open, sir." "Elder Vexeny, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Freedom's Edge. We received your distress call. We're not a warship, and we're heavily outgunned, but we're coming to help." There was a long pause. Then the Elder's voice came through the speakers, filled with emotion. "Captain Morrison, we are grateful beyond words. But you must not sacrifice yourselves for us. The Zephyrians are too strong." "Elder, we're human," Jake said simply. "This is what we do." He cut the channel and turned to his crew. "I'm not ordering anyone to do this. If anyone wants to object, now's the time." The bridge was quiet. Then Amy spoke up. "Sir, where do you want me to set course?" "Pete, I need everything the engines can give us." "You'll have it, Captain." "Ben, start working on targeting solutions." "Already on it, sir." "Lisa, monitor all frequencies. I want to know everything that's happening." Jake looked out at the stars. Again, somewhere out there, people were dying while the galaxy watched and did nothing. The Freedom's Edge wasn't much, but she was what the Valdori had. "Amy, set course for the Valdori system. Maximum burn." The ship's engines roared to life, and the Freedom's Edge turned toward a battle she probably couldn't win. But Jake Morrison and his crew were human, and humans had a long history of showing up to fights they had no business being in as the ship jumped to hyperspace. Jake thought about something his father had told him years ago. "Son, sometimes being right isn't about winning. Sometimes it's just about showing up. They were definitely showing up. Late, uninvited, and probably doomed. But they were showing up, and that, Jake thought, was the most human thing of all. The Freedom's Edge dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Valdori system. What Jake Morrison saw on the main screen made his heart heavy. The planet looked like a jewel that someone had tried to break. Valdori Prime was a beautiful world of blue oceans and green continents. But now, orange fires burned across the surface. Smoke clouds covered entire regions. The orbital stations that had once guided peaceful trade ships were now twisted metal floating in space. "Tactical report," Jake said quietly. "Lieutenant Ben." Harper worked his console with quick fingers. 12 Zephyrian heavy cruisers in standard siege formation around the planet. They're taking turns hitting the surface with energy weapons. I'm reading multiple smaller attack ships doing bombing runs. Jake studied the enemy formation on the tactical display. The Zephyrian ships looked like massive crystals that someone had shaped into weapons. They were beautiful in a deadly way, their surfaces glowing with internal light. "Any sign of Valdori resistance?" "Negative, sir. Their orbital defense platforms are gone. I'm detecting some civilian ships in the atmosphere, but they're trapped. The Zephyrians have fighters preventing them from reaching space." Amy Foster spoke up from the navigation station. "Sir, those civilian ships are packed with refugees. I'm reading life signs in the thousands per vessel." Jake felt anger building in his chest. The Zephyrians weren't just conquering the planet. They were making sure no one could escape. They wanted to capture the entire population, probably to use as slaves. "Communications. Hail the Valdori leadership. Channel open, sir." The main screen flickered, and Elder Vexini appeared. The Valdori leader looked nothing like the calm, peaceful being Jake had seen in diplomatic files. His blue skin was pale with stress, and his large eyes were filled with fear. "Captain Morrison, you came." The elder's voice was shaking. "But please, you must leave immediately. The Zephyrians will destroy you, as they have destroyed us." "Elder, we didn't come here to run away. What's your current situation?" "Our planetary shields are failing. They will be gone within 2 hours. Our evacuation ships are trapped in the lower atmosphere. We have tried to break through their fighter screen, but our ships are not built for combat." Jake could see the desperation in the elder's eyes. "How many people are still on the surface?" 4 million civilians in the primary danger zones. We have managed to evacuate 6 million to the northern continent, but the Zephyrians are moving their attacks in that direction. What about your government, your leaders? Most of the council is coordinating the evacuation efforts. We will not abandon our people." The elder paused. "Captain, I must ask again. Please save yourselves. Your gesture of coming here means more to us than you know, but there is nothing you can do." Jake cut the channel and turned to his crew. They had all heard the conversation. The situation was even worse than they had expected. "Ben, detailed analysis of the Zephyrian formation. They're using a standard planetary siege pattern. 3 ships hitting the surface, while the others maintain orbital control. They're rotating every 30 minutes to keep their weapons charged. The formation is designed to prevent anyone from getting on or off the planet. What about their defenses? Each cruiser has energy shields that can stop most weapons. Their hulls are made of some kind of living crystal that can repair minor damage. They have point defense systems for smaller threats." Jake nodded. The Zephyrians were known for their defensive capabilities. Their ships were tough to kill, even when you had a fair fight. "Pete, what can you give me?" Chief Engineer Pete Collins looked up from his station. "The engines are running at maximum efficiency. I can give you combat power for about 30 minutes before we start taking damage from the overload. After that, we'll be limited to basic operations. Weapons status?" Our main guns are plasma cannons and kinetic rail guns. We have enough ammunition for maybe 20 minutes of sustained fire. The plasma charges are effective against most shields, but the kinetic rounds might be more useful against their crystal hulls. Jake thought about this. A Freedom's Edge had been designed to fight pirates and raiders, not capital ships. Her weapons were meant to disable smaller vessels, not destroy something the size of a Zephyrian cruiser. Amy, can you get us close to the planet without being detected? I can try, sir. The Zephyrians are focused on the surface bombardment. If I come in from the night side and use the planet's magnetic field to mask our approach, we might get within weapons range before they notice us. How close? Maybe 10,000 kilometers before their sensors pick us up. Close enough for our weapons to be effective. Jake looked at the tactical display again. Even if they could get close, they were still facing impossible odds. One human ship against 12 alien cruisers. Lisa, have you been monitoring Zephyrian communications? Yes, sir. They're speaking in their own language, but the computer is translating. They're not taking this operation seriously. They keep referring to the Valdori as passive targets and easy harvest. What about their fleet commander? War Master Kethver is in command. He's aboard the lead cruiser. From what I can tell, he's treating this as a training exercise for his younger officers. Jake felt his anger growing. The Zephyrians were treating the destruction of an entire civilization like a game. They were playing with people's lives. Ben, if we hit their formation, what would happen? Depends on what we hit, sir. If we could disable one of their ships, it might disrupt their rotation pattern. The other ships would have to break formation to cover the gap. And that would give the Valdore evacuation ships a chance to escape? Maybe, sir. But it would also bring the entire fleet down on us. We'd have maybe 5 minutes before they turned. Use into space dust. Jake was quiet for a moment. 5 minutes wasn't much time, but it might be enough for some of the trapped civilians to reach safety. He thought about the Elder's words. 4 million people were about to die, and the galaxy was doing nothing to help them. Sir, Amy said quietly, what are your orders? Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was waiting for him to make a decision. They all knew what he was thinking. They could try to run, but that would mean abandoning millions of innocent people. They could try to fight, but that would almost certainly mean death for everyone aboard the Freedom's Edge. Pete, start charging the weapons. Amy, plot an approach course to the planet. Ben, I want targeting solutions on their lead cruiser. Sir, Pete said carefully, are you sure about this? Jake thought about his wife and kids back on Earth. He thought about the Valdori children who were crying as their world burned. He thought about the promise he had made when he first put on a Starfleet uniform to protect the innocent, no matter the cost. Lisa, open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet. Channel open, sir. The main screen showed a creature that looked like it was made of living crystal. War Master Kethvar had sharp features and eyes that glowed with inner light. When he spoke, his voice sounded like breaking glass. Human vessel, you will withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This is not your concern. Actually, it is now, Jake said calmly. You have 5 minutes to cease your attack on the Valdori homeworld and withdraw your forces. The aliens' laughter was like crystals falling on metal. 1 small ship against 12 battle cruisers? Your species' reputation for madness is well deserved. 5 minutes, Jake repeated. You will be destroyed as an example to others who might think to interfere with Zephyrian business. Jake cut the channel and turned to his crew. They were all looking at him with expressions of fear and determination mixed together. You all know what we're about to do, he said. If anyone wants to object, now's the time. No one spoke. They had all made their choice when they decided to come to this system. Amy, take us in. Ben, target their lead cruiser. Pete, give me everything the engines have. The Freedom's Edge turned toward the Zephyrian fleet. She was old and outgunned, but she was crewed by humans who had decided that some things were worth dying for. As the ship accelerated toward the enemy formation, Jake thought about something his grandfather had told him about the old wars on Earth. Son, it's not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's about the size of the fight in the dog. The Freedom's Edge might be small, but she was carrying 42 humans who were very, very angry. And angry humans, Jake knew, were capable of surprising things. The battle was about to begin.